Ms. Peck, roll call, please.
Jim Boucher.
Here.
John Kreischer.
Here.
Kyle Lowe. Here. Cody Nicolai.
Here.
Jane Rouch. Here. Lynn Strollock.
Here.
Karen Vandenberg. Here. Lee Webster.
Here.
Pat McKee.
Here. Thank you. All right, if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go over his mic stand.
Next, the mission statement, which is mission to advance student learning, achievement, and success. Next on the agenda, item number 5, public and student comment. We have a number of folks signed up tonight, and before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone of some of the highlights of our public comment policy, which is 167.3, if you choose to read it in its entirety. Participants will be recognized by the presiding officer and will be requested to state their name, address, and/or group affiliation if and when appropriate. Each statement will be limited to 3 minutes, and Clerk Peck will keep track of time and let you know where you are within those 3 minutes. Speakers shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or individual participants. Public comments identifying specific personnel or students by name through the use of sufficiently detailed descriptions so as to identify them are not appropriate. Comments will be rejected if the content is reasonably interpreted to constitute discriminatory or harassing statements. Speakers bear the personal risk if anything he or she says during the comment period is defamatory, slanderous, or otherwise harmful to another individual. Also, the presiding officer may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when the statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Request any individual to leave the meeting when that person does not observe reasonable decorum. So a little bit more detail on that one. Please save your applause, boos, hissing, any kind of facial expressions or what have you for the confines of your home. We want to keep this respectful for all speakers. We understand that there's a lot of opinions and thoughts on this, and frankly a lot of passion, but public comment will be ended if we cannot maintain that respectful nature throughout the comment period. The portion of the meeting for public comment shall be limited to 30 minutes. We'll see where we're at after that. Looks like we may be close, and if needed, we can always vote to extend. Okay.
President McKee, if I could just let the community know, we know, looking at the list, obviously there's a lot of interest in face masks and mitigation. I just want to let the community know that Wausau District and the DC Everest District are working collaboratively with Marathon County Health Department on some further mitigation plans coupled with some community and school metrics. That will be on the agenda upcoming no later than the 27th. We actually polled the board. I'm not sure where we ended up, but we could actually have a special meeting if needed. So just as you know, so you know that if that's an interest of yours, we're already on that path. So thank you, President.
Thank you. Okay, first on the list, we have Julie Carell.
My name is Julie Carell. My address is 717 Steuben Street, Wausau. Good evening, members of the Wausau School District School Board. I am here as a grandmother of a Thomas Jefferson Elementary School student, a retired Wausau School District elementary teacher, and a current substitute teacher. First of all, I want to thank you for your recent decisions and upholding that decision to allow face masks to be optional in our school district. And I'm going to ask you to please continue to allow face masks to be optional. I was a substitute teacher last year during the face mask mandate in the school district. And at the end of the year, I was not able to continue in that role as a substitute teacher. I am what you would call a hearing impaired individual. Recently diagnosed with a pretty significant hearing loss. I do wear hearing aids. I found that as a substitute teacher, wearing a mask and having the hearing aids, not only did I occasionally have a high-pitched sound coming from my hearing aid, disturbing me and students, but I was also not able to hear students in certain classrooms. In fact, there was a situation where I had to sort of bust through that 6 feet separation, social distancing separation, just in order to hear a student, what the student was saying to me. That seemed a little silly because as I was putting my face down, my ear to the mouth of a student, just so I could hear that student, that was kind of, I think, crazy. I eventually found that it was really too difficult to continue in that environment as a substitute teacher. As a grandparent of a Wausau School District elementary student, it broke my heart last year to see him get off the school bus with his little face mask on. I couldn't even see his smile as he told me about his day. In the same way, we are losing a great deal of communication opportunities with our students, especially the younger ones, as they have so much to say with their faces. You know, their smiles, their questioning looks, maybe a look of disappointment. Students who are young and also students who have hearing impairments and other communication issues really rely on facial features to really communicate. They read lips also. To think that there's a possibility of us going back to masking our students and staff when there's really no conclusive evidence that masks actually stop the spread of this virus seems ludicrous to me. We're taking another step backwards in the education of our precious young people. Do we really want to do that again? I don't think so. Again, we can do so much better for our school district. Please keep the mask optional, and thank you.
No, hey, no, let's keep it quiet, please. Thank you, Ms. Grau. Next up on the list is Natalie Wolk.
Hi, I'm Natalie Wolk. I'm a senior attendant. I live at 903 West Strawbridge Street. I'm a senior attending Wausau West High School, and I thank you for your decision to keep masks optional in school. As students, being in school is very important to our development, and the newly elected school board has done a great job providing options for different situations to attend school. You can go to school with the option to wear a mask, with the option to not wear a mask, or sign up to go to school virtually. There's a small percentage of students at school that do wear their masks during school, and that is their right. I'm here to ask that you stand up and stay strong to defend our rights to not wear masks, as it has already been classified as unconstitutional. My focus in school has tremendously improved by keeping masks optional. It's not a child's job to worry about the health of others. That's between their parents and the child. Please keep masks optional, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next on the list, Bruce Grau.
I'm Bruce Grau, nurse practitioner. I live at 1115 North 10th Street. Our schools are now back in business, as is the Delta variant of COVID. Hospitalizations and deaths are on the rise, reaching unprecedented numbers for children and individuals not suffering from chronic diseases. In this backdrop, you still have the opportunity to provide the success of a full year of in-person instruction, but have chosen to take the riskiest and potentially more deadly route of making masks optional, not promoting full vaccination or regular testing, and other half measures of mitigation and staff support. You've been given the opportunity to prove to the staff and community that you put needs fundamental to the continuous operation of the in-person experience as a priority over political allegiances and vanity. Yet, you succumb to popularity contests and politics of unlimited individual freedom, trumping the health of the community. while discounting the concerns of parents and teachers about the unmet needs of struggling students. Perhaps having your name associated with an upscale high school sporting complex satisfies your need for feel-good recognition. But you have not been tasked with rebranding the Wausau School District. Your own surveys attest to the priority of improving educational performance. Having the district associated with the sickness and death of students, parents, teachers, and staff will have families fleeing schools. Consider the impact of legal action on people's perception of the board after being given so many opportunities to do the right thing. Please, divert your gaze away from the mirror and focus on making the hard calls that give our kids their best chance to complete a full year in person while minimizing COVID's impact on the life and livelihoods of working people, working families in our entire community. You still have the opportunity to be graciously recognized for doing everything you could to complete the academic year while improving the achievement gap and prioritizing the express needs of parents and teachers as a school board is expected. Restore the mask mandate, all proven mitigation measures, and provide adequate PPEs, establish vaccination centers through the schools, provide hazard pay to all staff, assure health department representation at every meeting like now, follow the CDC recommendation for quarantine and contact tracing, and expand the district-wide effort to meet the needs of marginalized and struggling students to address the achievement gap. Please keep education and safety first. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Andrea Pike.
My name's Andrea Pike, and my address is 150587 Lavender Lane. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunities to speak today. I am speaking up to protect children, the school staff, and our community as a whole. We are all connected, so our individual actions have a great impact on not only our own health, but the health of our community. That is why it is so important for us to work together to create the safest learning environment possible for the 10,000 children and staff of the Wausau School District. My husband and I are licensed healthcare professionals. I have a clinical doctorate in physical therapy, and my husband is a physician, so he has firsthand experience treating and intubating patients with COVID. The hospital has seen a recent surge in COVID patients since the end of the summer, and patients are younger, sicker, needing more ICU level care, particularly the unvaccinated. The hospital has been so busy they have needed to transfer patients away from Aspirus to smaller rural hospitals. It is vital that the school board help reduce the transmission of this virus by reinstating COVID mitigation strategies. In doing so, our community, hospital staff, and resources will not be as strained. My husband and I are disappointed in the Wausau School Board administration decision to relax the mitigation strategies that were in place last year, specifically masking and social distancing. We feel it is irresponsible to send unvaccinated children into a classroom without protections. The current dominant strain, the Delta virus, is even more contagious and has had more of a deleterious impact on children to become ill, and that puts them at greater risk of illness this year. The responsible action of the Wausau School Board and administration would be to follow the recommendations of experts, the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Wisconsin Department of Health, the Marathon County Health Department, the Wisconsin Department of Public Instructions. All of these professional groups have a united stance that masking and social distancing are the safest tools we have to protect children. I have 2 children, one is 8, one is 4, they cannot get vaccinated, who are currently unable to get their vaccine. Masks do help transmission of disease such as COVID. There has been proven through peer-reviewed professional studies time and time again. Masking is most effective when everyone wears the mask. When masks are optional, children have to be brave, and they have to put up with the pressure of whether or not to wear that mask to protect their health and their family's health, and while their peers may not be wearing a mask. So I represent one of many parents who are concerned about the lack of safety precautions. This year, I'm asking the school board and the administration to please reinstate the mitigation strategies of masking and social distancing to ensure the safety of our community as a whole. And thank you for your time today listening to me. I've been taking my child out for lunch even, just so that she's not, I have the ability to do that, but so she's not in a gym with 6 classrooms. Anyways, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rachel Tao.
Rachel Tao, 1006 Markwart Road. Good evening. As a mother of 4 kids, 3 are attending the Wausau Public Schools this year. I want to thank the board members who voted to keep masks optional and allow us parents to make the best choice for our own children. Since there's been a lot of backlash from the community who are pushing for another mask mandate in our schools, I want to take this time to talk about proper mask hygiene and the correct way to wear a mask. I'm sure you all are already aware that according to the CDC's website, once you touch or pull down your mask without properly washing or sanitizing your hands first, that mask becomes a magnet for bacteria and viruses, especially when worn for a long period of time. And after you take your mask off and place it on an unsanitized surface, again, the mask can easily be exposed to germs and therefore cause it to be contaminated. So how many of you actually follow the CDC's guidelines for mask wearing 100% of the time? On June 26, 2021, a study was done in a lab at the University of Florida. They tested 6 masks worn by children ages 8 to 11 for an average of 5 to 7 hours that day. It should be noted these masks were either disposables, new, or properly laundered clean cloth masks. It was concluded that 5 of the 6 tested masks were contaminated with bacteria, parasites, and fungi, including 3 with dangerous pathogenic and pneumonia-causing bacteria. Half of the masks were contaminated with 1 or more strains of pneumonia-causing bacteria, 1/3 with meningitis-causing bacteria, 1/3 with dangerous antibiotic-resistant bacterial pathogens, along with other pathogens that cause fever, ulcers, acne, yeast infections, strep throat, periodontal disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and more. As a parent, this truly concerns me. So if you decide to mandate masks again, I sure hope you have an abundant supply of disposable masks to give students every single time they touch their mask without properly sanitizing their hands or surfaces first. If you expect me to send my kids to school in a mask, then I expect you to do it the correct way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Dawn Deitchy.
Dawn Deitchy, 1226 Henrietta Street in Wausau. Dr. Hiltz and the school board, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my family. I am not a scientific expert. However, I am a mom to 3 children in the district, 2 of which attended in-person instruction last year, where all students were required to wear a mask for 7 to 8 hours a day. I recall several occasions where I drove my kids to school, my then 6th grade daughter sobbing in the front seat next to me, begging me not to make her go. I asked her what made her hate school so much. She was doing fine academically, really liked her teachers, and she loves to learn. She said to me, "I hate having to wear a mask all day. I hate not being able to use the bathroom when I have to, just because someone else is in the bathroom. I hate getting yelled at for not having my mask on outside at recess. It's like prison." As a mom, this was absolutely heartbreaking. On top of it all, my daughter developed a skin condition from wearing a mask every day, resulting in hundreds of dollars out of pocket from visits to the dermatologist and medications. And yes, she did change her mask daily. Fast forward to this school year, where masks are optional. My kids are 1,000% happier. They actually enjoy going to school. It's not a struggle to get them out of bed in the morning. When I pick them up, they have a smile on their face, and I can see it. They tell me about their day and share things that they learned in conversations they had with their friends. I have a feeling that COVID-19 is something we are going to have to deal with for years to come, similar to influenza. As a society, are we going to run in terror and mask up every day for the rest of our lives? All for a virus that, according to the Marathon County Health Department, as of today, currently has a 94.5% recovery rate across the board. Let's be real. How are we teaching our kids to respond in times of crisis? Every weekend we see athletic stadiums filled to the brim with very few masks on the faces of those in attendance. Not one mention of it. Why then is there such outrage over keeping masks optional in schools and letting us choose what's best for our kids? The double standard and hypocrisy is staggering. To the majority of the school board, thank you for keeping virtual learning as an option for those who need it by expanding the WAVE program. Thank you for voting to return back to in-person instruction in our schools. And thank you on behalf of my family and so many others in the district for keeping masks optional in Wausau schools. Thank you for standing up for our kids and allowing them to breathe again.
Thank you. Next, we have Julian B.
Hi, my name is Julian Brown. I live at 917 Ethel Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, and I'm an 8th grade student at Horace Mann. As a student, I'm really disappointed in this board's decisions relating to COVID precautions in our schools. You have the power to protect our community, and you are choosing not to do it. And worse than that, you are not even enabling students who want to do it themselves. Last week, my mask broke, and I went to get one from the box by the school entrance. They were not there anymore, and when I asked for one at the office, I was given one, but told by 2 different people that the school would not be providing masks anymore because they were optional. And if students wanted to wear masks, they could bring them from home. This is an option for me. We know that not all students have the same resources, and some may not have access to masks. On the first day of school, we learned the basic concepts of the Leader in Me program. One word that came up as important to good leadership was integrity. Integrity is doing the right thing even when other people are not doing it or not watching. I heard this board making the argument that a mask mandate in our schools would not be helpful because people are not wearing masks in other places in the community. You could show integrity by instating this mask mandate. It would show that you guys will do the right thing even if it is not happening in other places. This would be a great show of leadership from a school district that claims to value it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jane Rouch.
Jane Rouch, 4522 Forest Valley Road. I'm speaking today despite the board hiring an attorney to find a strategy to silence me, only to find out that they can't because you can't take away someone's First Amendment right. They also refused to put my request on the agenda so that the board may discuss the ongoing pandemic and the steps the board is willing to take to keep our community healthy. If COVID had been put on the agenda, we could discuss tonight the federal mandate that the Department of Labor plans to issue, a new requirement for employers that have 100 or more employees must require them to get vaccinated. That would be us. A standard strongly supported by the past Supreme Court rulings. The court declared in the Jacobson case that one man's liberty cannot deprive his neighbors of their own liberty, in this case by allowing the spread of disease. Because it's not on the agenda, the board will also not be able to discuss what criteria would be needed to return to a mask mandate or other mitigation strategies. Even if the majority votes that no matter how many kids are in the hospital, they will never return to a mask mandate, the community deserves to know their decision and what facts they base that on. Because it's not on the agenda, the board cannot discuss the health department saying multiple students have tested positive. But in fact, I only have found out about one, and that was through social media. We also can't discuss the DBI letter telling us that we are in danger of a lawsuit because of fragile kids coming to school and being exposed because everyone's not wearing a mask. Because it isn't on the agenda, the board cannot discuss if the health department issues a quarantine notice, which is the law and must be followed, what are the ramifications that staff or parents will face? Because it isn't on the agenda, the board cannot discuss the new CDC research that found that those who were vaccinated were nearly 5 times less likely to get infected, 10 times less likely to get so sick they end up in the hospital, and 11 times less likely to die. I have never in my life wanted the experts to be wrong as much as I do right now. I hope we get through the school year without any unnecessary serious illness of our staff or students despite the board's refusal to take action. Stop the bullying and playing politics.
All right, thank you. Moving on, Jackson Seeger.
Hello, my name is Jackson Seeger, and I am a local Wausau resident. My address is 1200 South 50th Avenue, Apartment 8. I want to start by reminding you that you work for us. You work for the staff of this district, and you work for the students. It is your job to protect our kids and loved ones. At this time, you have failed at that job. You have not only failed that job, but you have failed our community. Before school started, we asked that you include COVID mitigation and masking on the school board agenda for the meeting held on 9-3, to which you ignored our request. I understand that something is in the process now, but it should have been way sooner. Please keep in mind that you are an elected position, and serving on this board is a privilege. As of today, Monday, September 13th, 2021, every single bed in Aspirus is full. As we continue to deny that COVID exists and that our children are at risk, especially those under the age of 12, you run the risk of being the reason children in our district end up in the hospital on a ventilator. To those saying who say masking is a violation of your rights, you sound just plain ignorant. Masking is to protect the vulnerable and the elderly members of our community. Keep in mind that many of those same elderly members were forcibly drafted into the military, gave up years of their life and saw their friends die, suffered from psychological damage to protect your right to whine and complain about wearing a piece of fabric over your face. Please consider the masking and COVID mitigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Vicky Loveland.
Hello, my name is Vicky Loveland, Wausau, Wisconsin. No affiliation, just mom of 4. All right, thank you to the board members who have approached this issue with common sense and allowing choices. Appreciate that. Your commitment to the students' education and desire to create a great district is extremely appreciated. Contrary to some who believe you are our children's doctors and a police force, the most important responsibility of the school board is to improve student achievement. You have not let us down in your efforts to get kids back in person and learning to their full potential. Students are excited for school again. Please continue to keep it so. To the others who want masks, it's been 18 months of masks and other senseless restrictions. Do you honestly think another 18 months or years of tyranny is the answer? The flu isn't going anywhere, and yes, it's the flu, a different version, but it's the flu. Additional variants will surface like clockwork to scare you into more submission. The CDC has flip-flopped so many times. We've heard wear masks, don't wear masks, stay 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart, etc., with zero proof any of that works. Yet you follow along because the highest paid government official, Fauci, tells you to. What is happening to being able to think for ourselves? No wonder kids are failing. You're teaching them to mindlessly follow instead of lead. We've gone from 14 days to flatten the curve to officials yanking screaming children from their parents and forcibly injecting them with shots, coupled with COVID quarantine camps, concentration camps, in Australia. This is what you're fighting for in the US? God help us, wake up. Quit turning the country into Nazi Germany where people betray neighbors, friends, and family, all for the common good. If you're serious about protecting your kids rather than bullying others into fulfilling your misguided wishes, do the following. Turn off the news. Quit listening to the scare tactics. Falsely PCR testing inflates cases by 95%. It can't even distinguish between the flu, COVID, or variants. Focus on recovery rates of 99.997% for kids under 20. 99.95% for 21 to 50-year-olds, 99.5% for 51 to 70. That is the science. Go through your pantries and toss all processed food. Replace with healthy options and fruits and vegetables, water instead of sugary juices and pop. Buy vitamins. Get liposomal vitamin C, vitamin D, ionic zinc, quinine, and a good probiotic. Healthy bodies will combat the flu easily. My 90-year-old mother with heart and health problems and who chose to wear a mask got the virus in January. She takes supplements faithfully. After 1 to 2 days, she was just fine and cruising around on the four-wheeler this summer. If you can't do these few simple things to protect yourself and your loved ones, quit lecturing me and my children who do care about our health and choose differently. Stop the theatrics of how we're selfish and killing people. What's selfish is you, thinking people who dare to have a different viewpoint must bow to your will. Wear your mask. Wear 5 of them if it makes you feel better about yourself. No one cares. You're protected, right? Just leave my kids alone. You have no right to inflict your beliefs onto my kid, just as I have no right to, nor do I want to, determine what you do with yours. My children and their immune systems prefer oxygenated fresh air that is conducive to better learning, not air riddled with bacteria and carbon dioxide. That's science again. Inflict fear on your own children if you wish, but keep your mandates away from mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles Berger.
Hi, good evening. Charles Berger, 223611 Magnolia Ave, Wausau, Wisconsin. I want to thank the board here for joining us tonight and talk about something that's not masks, so hopefully everyone can sigh of relief. I just wanted to say after a very positive return to school this fall, locally and always, everyone's sort of returning to their normal routine, it's time to look again at the future of the Wausau School District and the challenges and the opportunity that's going to face us all. In a few earlier board meetings, there was discussion about upgrading the athletic facilities for school use. The benefit as well as the possible upside to area businesses and the groups looking to use them was also talked about. If you have football team members, parents of the Wausau football team were able to go and visit Wisconsin Rapids last week. And we were able to see a truly incredible renovation when community and school district got together. The Rapids School District was able to upgrade their football stadium, softball, baseball diamonds, and track and turf, new scoreboards, accessibility, and ease of use, which are allowing students of all abilities to have their state-of-the-art conditions to train and play in. The project in total was close to $9.2 million for the renovation for all the upgrades at Wisconsin Rapids Lincoln. All scoreboards, sidelines, even the middle of the main football field were adorned with a large donor like Wood Trust Bank between the 40-yard to 40-yard line. Incredible that they had such support from the local community. Lighting for all the fields, which of course impacts the budgets, was all renovated as well to LED, high efficiency, et cetera, from their old types. This allows for late games, practices in both the summer and after school use, and of course outside of school hours, school days use for other types of revenue, other types of team sports. Although this very impressive renovation was $9.2 million, over $8 million came from local donors. Pretty neat. Over $8 million from local donors coming together from local businesses, hospitals, etc. As I said, Wood Trust Bank was a major donor to them. As a visiting team, parents found parking very easy, renovated bleachers with handrails, and of course incredible playing surface that allowed for an incredibly greater use and a great time. Truly state-of-the-art will now raise the standards in player functionality and technology. This fall they're looking to open up concession stands as well that are going to be servicing all the sports going on from one location. Both tennis, softball, baseball, football, ice hockey, etc., all in one common area. It's pretty incredible. The positive economic impact will be seen in more events being scheduled and the resulting number of people of the area. I noticed that locally DC Everest just finished their renovation and showcased their flexibility to play even though heavy rainstorms had just come through 2 weeks ago. Within moments of that storm ending, Wausau West was able to play on that turf without any type of interruption. I'm here to see what his parents, community members, and alumni can do to help. Whether it's to help form a committee, we'd all be willing to seek private donations from the many corporate sponsors as individuals in the area, to help fund or to take an experience of some different ideas, some different groupthink, Maybe word B, I know there was a discussion about what would we do. Oh, can I finish on my last sentence?
One sentence.
Okay, I'm here to see what we can do, and if we could, organizations whose leaders can trace the roots back to Wausau, we'd appreciate that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, we're at half an hour. So we can take a
Okay. That's fine. We've got 4 speakers left. If no one has an objection, we're just going to finish out. Next on the list, I'm sorry, 5 speakers. Mary Hafes.
Good evening. My name is Mary Hafes. I live at 214 South 4th Avenue, Abbotsford, Wisconsin. First, I want to say I wear hearing aids. I am legally deaf without them. I have spent the last 45 years of my life working in healthcare. I've scrubbed in for deliveries wearing a mask. I've entered isolation rooms, worked with patients wearing a mask. The staff that joined me wore a mask, and we communicated. I currently wear a mask when I enter the facility I work in. The other staff wears it, and so does the customers. If I can wear a mask, being hearing impaired, and being legally deaf without my hearing aids, students with the same disability can wear a mask. If they read lips, there are masks with windows. Now, I want to say that the petition I presented last time now has 1,042 signatures and is still growing. People that have signed that petition are grandparents, parents, and extended family who are worried about the children. They are also members of the community who signed because they are concerned about unvaccinated children who have no protection. According to an article dated August 29th, 5 children under the age of 16 died from COVID-19 in Florida. That was 2 weeks ago. Tampa Bay Times in Florida also reports nearly 1/3 of those infected with COVID are those under the age of 19. In the last 2 weeks, how many more children have died? Is 1 child a statistic? Is 4 children a statistic? Today, the Wausau School Board District's COVID-19 dashboard reported 33 cases and 203 are quarantined. Wisconsin is not expected to peak until mid-October. That is only 4 to 5 weeks away. If we mask now, we can prevent a death. Wisconsin, I want to get this in. People before me, are you vaccinated? I'm not asking you, but I'm commenting. If you were vaccinated because you didn't want to get sick. If you were vaccinated, it was because you didn't want to be on a vent. If you were vaccinated, it's because you do not want to die. You have the protection from this deadly virus. Our children, 12 and under, do not have the opportunity to be vaccinated. The only protection these children have are masks. No, they're not 100%.
You're at time, ma'am.
Gave the other gentleman more time. So what I'm going to ask you to do is do the right thing. Ask all students and teachers and staff to mask at this time. It's only temporary until we can get a vaccine for these children. I'm a grandma. I don't want my grandchildren to die. I have 5 of them. They are the light of my life. And I don't think anybody up here wants a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, or their child to die. When you have seen, and I have seen a child
Thank you,
incubated,
Ms. Hayes.
then you will understand the pain
Next
of
on the
being
list, we have
intubated.
Megan Marole.
Hi, my name is Megan Marole. My address is 1025 Everest Boulevard, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. Before I begin, I would like you to forget which side you stand on and listen to a member of your community, and more importantly, a student in the Wausau School District. The newest part of our curriculum is the program Leader in Me, where it teaches each student the 7 habits to being a successful and effective person. The first habit is being a proactive rather than reactive. But what we are witnessing today is a school board being reactive by not choosing the most readily available mitigation strategy, which is masking. We're instead seeing the school board allowing kids to get very sick and potentially hospitalized before we consider masks again, which is taking a reactive approach. The reason each of these people were elected to the school board was to put the needs of children first. The children are what count. Your responsibility as a board member and as an active member of the community is to consider the health and safety of others. Virtually every reputable hospital and medically trained professional advises that students wear masks during school. This shouldn't be a decision based on the parent. This is a health and safety issue that affects everyone. And sadly, people are looking at what best serves them and not others. The adults have manifested this health and safety issue into a political war, which is sad to witness. Kids may complain about school, but since we've experienced time without in-person learning, we have grown an appreciation for it. We will do anything to keep our schools open, including masks. They simply do not care with wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. I have yet to experience being ridiculed or insulted by my peers for wearing a mask. While preparing for tonight, I received multiple calls by adults. These are not kids in the district. These are parents of the kids in the district. I was called a communist. I was called stupid. I was told I was immature. I could use the remainder of my 3 minutes to tell you all the threatening and inappropriate personal attacks, but I think you get the idea. This past Saturday, I was sitting in a classroom with 20 to 30 students, waiting to take the ACT. As the ACT advisor was reading the directions, it was stated that while taking the test, you were required to wear a mask. Every student grabbed their mask or grabbed a mask from the advisor with no added comment or rebuttal, because they didn't care. They were there to take the ACT. It didn't matter if you had to wear a mask or not. If you take the parents out of the equation and truly focused on the students, there is only one option, and it is to require masks. It is my impression that the school board exists to focus on the safe environment for students, but I'm worried that the board is focused on the feelings of childish parents. So please, as a student of your school district, save my peers and consider reevaluating your decision regarding the health and safety of the Wausau School District. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nessa Wolk. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, I'm Nessa Wolk. My address is 903 West Strobridge Street. I'm a student at John Muir. I would like to talk about masks in school. 6th grade was a stressful year for a lot of students because of virtual learning. Being forced to wear masks made it worse. Having masks optional made more students excited to... Oh. Do I have to raise right now? Okay. Having masks optional made more students excited to go to school. Wearing masks was very distracting for a lot of students. These few weeks of the new school year have been so much better because masks are optional. Most students this year are more motivated and focused, so I kindly ask you to keep masks optional. Stay strong and keep the majority in mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Barbara Pupp.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to advocate for my children and others. Hello, my name is Barbara Pupp, and thank you for the opportunity to advocate for my children and others. I live at 808 Greenleaf Circle in Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401, in the great town of Stettin. A little bit about myself. I am married to Dan of 18 years and counting. We have 2 teenagers in the Wausau West School District. As a sophomore, Evan is a sophomore and April is a senior this year. You may have remembered Evan as he spoke to you all a few weeks ago in regards to why he as a student does not want to wear a mask for physical reasons, social reasons, and overall mental reasons. My senior would like to be here tonight to voice her opinion as well, but has a leadership position at Fellowship for Christian Athletes tonight, so perhaps next time. She is an athlete and a swimmer, and she has also voiced her concern to me many times and how the coaches are more concerned about how they're wearing the mask and putting the mask on than really about the swim practice. She stated how hard it was to breathe after completing a race and then forced to wear a mask, prohibiting her oxygen intake. And she has come home sad and crying. As Evan and April's mom, I am sad about this. I'm sad that America hasn't stood strong for our children, for our individual human rights. I am here not to prove to you about the efficacy part of masks not working. I am here to talk to you about our human rights being violated and taken away. The United States of America is founded on the Constitution that our forefathers wrote for us to have freedom, justice, and choice. And that includes our religious freedom. Let me clarify what I mean by religious freedom. It is not merely a religion, like Catholic, Lutheran, non-denominational, or whatever. It is our belief, it includes our belief system of our core values, our morals, and what we decide to choose for ourselves, our bodies, and our immediate families. Let's go back to the basics and follow the Constitution of the United States. Liberty, freedom, choice, and justice for all. Please keep the masks optional, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And our final speaker this evening, Corey Sillers.
I'm Corey Sillers. I live at 223565 County Road KK, Town of Rim Mountain. I have a freshman and a senior here at West. Good evening, school board members, Dr. Hiltz, and Wausau families. This district has presented 2 separate referendum questions to the public in order to address the maintenance requirements and upgrades needed for our school buildings. They both failed. I've discussed this topic with a few dozen moms and dads at our kids' sporting events since this last April. As a group, we agreed that the families of the district were extremely upset with our children not being in school and our lives being out of balance because of this. I believe the November referendum failed because of parents being emotionally upset. Reviewing both proposals again, the November proposal appears to be more fiscally responsible over the April one. It asks Wausau families to view the future of our schools differently than we have in the past so that Wausau can make a transition into additional opportunities for our children. What does that mean? It means that this district needs to seriously consider consolidating some of our schools to save taxpayer dollars and put it into our children instead of brick and mortar buildings. This will obviously cause some short-term emotional pain for families, but it would be temporary and offer better educational opportunities to our students. As a first step in reshaping our district, we should consider again combining our high schools together into 9 and 10 over at the Wausau East building and 11 and 12 here at the Wausau West building. This would create expanded academic and athletic opportunities for all our students in multiple ways. As an example, the students at Wausau East are getting the short stick in athletics with 8-man football right now, and girls tennis has about a dozen less players in comparison to the Wausau West team. We really should be striving to balance the opportunities in all areas for all our students. To continue the discussion, the district should set up a few town hall style meetings to gain additional feedback and have actual flowing conversations with parents. Surveys are good, but the district creates the questions and answers, so ideas and solutions cannot flow back and forth. And finally, on a lighter note, I'm available Monday and Tuesdays for your town hall meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sillers. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda, and this is, as always, an action item. This will include appointments, separations, leaves of absence, retirements, minutes of the regular session of August 9th, 2021, special session of August 9th, 2021, and special session of August 23rd, 2021. Also include payment of the bills, budget status and investment report, donations to the district, including donations from Aspirus Wausau Hospital Foundation, Wausau School Foundation, the Bennett Family, UMR, Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, GPM Southeast, the McDonald Foundation, the Mergendahl Family, and DeLonge. All right, and that is it on the consent agenda, so I'm seeking a motion for approval. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is recurring business from the EdOps committee. First up, we will have Mr. Tess from the EdOps committee presented a summary report presenting all legal counsel expenses incurred during 2020-2021. The report is broken down by law firm and type of legal advice sought. This is a written report that requires no action. Shared equalized value estimates. Prior to October 1st, only equalized valuations from municipalities are available. In order to project property value changes by school district, an assumption must be made that all property values in any given municipality change in a uniform manner. With this assumption, the district's property value is projected to decrease 1.06% for 2021-2022 mill rate calculation purposes. Certified property values will not be available until October 1st. The given projected property value will be used for the initial budget and during the annual meeting. All right, and next up we have an action item, which is recommendation for the 2021-2022 budget. Chief Finance and Business Officer Bob Test offered the presented 2021-2022 budget booklet for initial review. Contained in the publication is a preliminary budget which the committee is being asked to recommend for use at the budget hearing and annual meeting. So, nothing new to go on that one? All right, any questions from anyone on that one since that was presented? Okay.
I have one from back on the legal expenses, and it doesn't have to be answered tonight, but I was just wondering what the $5,366 was spent for the board for under legal expenses. If you don't know, it's fine. I should have sent that question in earlier.
We'll get you an answer. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so then I am seeking a motion to approve the preliminary 2021-2022 general fund budget of $112,804,864 for expenses and $112,260,768 for revenue for presentation at the annual meeting and budget hearing on September 27th, 2021. First and a second. Any comments, questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, we have another action item, which is recommendation for the 2021-2022 tax levy. Contained in the presented 2021-22 budget booklet is the corresponding tax levy to support the budget. Once approved, this levy will be presented at the budget hearing and annual meeting. So I'm seeking a motion to approve the projected tax levy of $47,481,497 for presentation at the annual meeting and budget hearing on September 27, 2021. So moved. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay. Next on the agenda, we have some potential or possible action on this one. At the August Education Operations Committee meeting, Diane White shared the community and staff engagement process presentation. No updates?
I have a brief update. We've begun the in-person portion of the staff engagement process through a series of listening sessions. I think we've held about a half a dozen. So we will continue those, and as we find themes, we'll certainly summarize that for the board at a later date.
All right, thank you. So no action on that one?
No.
Okay, item number 6, proposed board project. Wausau School Board members have inquired about pursuing a private fundraising effort to support projects that will positively impact Wausau students. Dr. Hiltz and high school administration members will present a possible indoor co-curricular facility project.
Right, so we presented some options at the last meeting, and the board asked if I could kind of explore some of the processes, the fundraising processes that have been used by other districts to build their facilities. We heard about one tonight, and I certainly spoke to Wisconsin Rapids, among others. And frankly, there's a whole variety of fundraising strategies that could be implemented. What I think might be helpful if we got a small group of folks together to see what our possible strategies would be most likely to be successful. Also kind of flesh out the details of the project and bring that back to the board at a later date.
Okay. So suggesting then perhaps we form a small committee, ask for volunteers on perhaps who wants to be a part of that?
Right. I would look for some board members to be a part of it, some interested parents who certainly are co-curricular directors. We could put together a representative staff team along with the board and some parents.
Okay. Okay. If no objections, I guess we will pursue that path and that committee at such time. We will ask for, can ask for volunteers now. If people are interested in serving on that committee, please reach out to Dr. Hiltz, and we will look for some updates as this materializes. Probably going to be a while before there's any meaningful proposals or anything, but it seems like a step in the right direction. So.
And Dr. Hiltz, I would request that the subcommittee take notes, meeting minutes, so that we have a record of who was at the meeting, what was said, what were the motions. Because before, for subcommittees, those minutes have been lacking. We didn't know where some of the ideas came from. So I think it's important that we be transparent with the public and keep those meeting minutes.
Right. So this would be a subcommittee of the board, which is subject to open meetings laws, so that would be a requirement. Some of the previous, like the task force, that was my own committee, which isn't required, but you're right, we do certainly want to capture some of the information that was shared, the presentations, and some of the decisions. Yep, thank you.
So, just to add though, the minutes wouldn't attempt to record everything that everyone said at the meeting, they would just state what was done at the meeting. So if there was a motion, if there was a decision made, or a recommendation, it wouldn't be, a lot of times those committee meetings are brainstorming sessions where you're just having a narrative discussion for an hour, and there might not be an actual motion, but.
I get that. It's just good to have a record of who was there and, actions that were taken.
Right.
And we would likely include, if there are any presentations, we would likely include those for reference as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to new business. The Education Operations Committee meeting, meal price recommendations for 2021-2022. Wausau School District Nutrition Services Department has updated adult meal pricing for the upcoming school year. The non-pricing option of the Wisconsin DPI adult meal pricing tool was used to set the pricing. The quote-unquote non-pricing formula accurately reflects the higher reimbursement rates being received for meals this school year. 2021-2022 adult meal prices, $2.50 for breakfast, $4.55 for lunch. Comments?
Nothing to add.
Okay. All right, on to item number 2, approved list of legal firms for 2021-2022. There is action requested on this. The presented summary lists the legal firms the district makes use of for a variety of necessary legal needs. I am seeking a motion to approve the attached list of law firms the board and district shall access for legal services deemed necessary by the superintendent of schools or his or her designee. So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, also an action item, setting our annual meeting date and location. District administration is asking the board to approve a date, time, and location for the budget hearing and annual meeting between May 15th and October 31st pursuant to state statute 120.08 sub 1 sub A. I am seeking a motion to approve Monday, September 27th, 2021 as the date for the 2021-2022 budget hearing and annual meeting. The meeting will be held at 6 p.m. in the Nicholson Boardroom at the Longfellow Administration Center, beginning with the budget hearing followed by the annual meeting.
I have a question. Given the number of people who came tonight who may come to that meeting, if we have COVID on the agenda that night, or even if we have it as a special meeting next week, we want to consider a larger location, or would that complicate things for presenting the budget? I'm just thinking if we have the number of people we had tonight, it might be pretty uncomfortable to pack into that boardroom as opposed to east or somewhere that has more room. Just throwing it out there before we officially decide that that's the location.
Quick question. Bob, we are required to approve the space tonight, is that correct?
We are, as a matter of fact. The publication will go in the newspaper tomorrow based on what you decide tonight. And we have to legally tell the rest of the community where the annual meeting is. And as of now, we're planning in the Nicholson Boardroom where we have the display and we have the technology. We'll certainly need a display screen wherever we are. If you make a change tonight to another location, pending availability of that location. With the people assembled here, we can probably check on that availability, I'm hoping. But anywhere there's a screen, last year we had it here. Remember we had it here?
If we were to change it, Bob, what is the notification requirement?
Well, we haven't put anything in the paper yet because we're waiting for tonight's meeting.
No, understood, but if we said tonight that it's going to be in the Nicholson boardroom, and then further discussion happened and we said, oh no, we want to have it here at Wausau West or East, can you issue or publish an amendment, if you will?
I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that because the time frame that you put it in the newspaper has to be exactly between, don't quote me on the days, but 14 to 11 days prior to. There's a perfect time to have a first class notice appear in the paper, and it's so many days prior to the event itself, and it's really tight. It's got to happen in the next 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Does it require the board to vote on it to tell you where the location is going to be, or could you figure that out sometime between now and when you have to publish it and just decide on your own? Do we have to, does this require, because normally the board doesn't vote on where a meeting is,
Right.
but this one requires a board vote, is that right?
Yes, and what you're voting on tonight, which the annual meeting last year gave you the authority to do, is the time, the date, and the location of the annual meeting. We probably get a little bit of grace on the location because statutorily, you're supposed to hold the annual meeting on a certain date unless the electors give you permission, which they already did, to change the date from a standard date that is across the board for the state. I think, don't quote me on this, the statute isn't quite as clear on the location. It's time and date. Wausau East, I'm hearing, has a conflict. See, I'm filibustering until we can figure out exactly where.
Well, so right now you're planning on the Nicholson boardroom.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm going to suggest that we move forward with that so we don't.
Is our intent to do that other meeting as a special meeting and not have it on the 27th? We don't know that yet.
I don't know that there's any definitive answer.
Okay.
Cassie is
We have had meetings canceled because the room was too full. So that could become a problem if too many people come to that meeting. And we have to cancel the meeting because of the fire marshal.
John Muir appears to be available, from what I'm hearing, during the filibuster. So, we've got technology, we can display on the screen, we have microphones. Right now, there's not a lot on the agenda for the ed ops that night, but in 2 weeks, a lot can change.
Okay. Given that, then I'm going to amend my motion, or amend the motion in front of us, and seek approval for Monday, September 27th, 2021 as the date for the 2021-2022 budget hearing and annual meeting. The meeting will be held at 6 p.m. in the John Muir Middle School auditorium, beginning with the budget hearing followed by the annual meeting. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next we have School Resource Officer Agreement. Angie Lloyd will review the recommended changes to the School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding.
Nothing to add.
No changes?
No changes, unless there's questions.
All right, then I am seeking a motion to approve the School Resource Officer Memorandum of Understanding as presented.
So move. Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor? Say aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda, we have a request from a board member to include some topics on a future agenda, and Dr. Hiltz was alluding to some of this earlier, but I just want to clarify the policy that we are looking at indicates that board members can, and the exact policy number, I think it's 0166. Something like that. Okay. So the policy indicates that board members can request agenda items and bring them to the full board to vote to see if they will be included. And I just wanted to clarify on here what those requested agenda items are. That they will be calendared for substantive discussion and or possible action on the next Wausau School Board meeting agenda. And those include to discuss and take action to have universal cloth face covering masks for staff and students of the district while in Wausau School District buildings. The second item is to discuss and take action to have administration do contact tracing in cooperation with the Marathon County Health Department. To discuss and take action on adding virtual option to elementary schools. And after discussion on Friday, Dr. Hiltz, I believe that administration is prepared to, so that will be, those three items will be added to the upcoming agenda for the EdOps Committee on September 27th, or sooner if a special meeting is required because of more information or data that would necessitate a change.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right, so those three items will be calendared for an agenda no later than September 27th EdOps meeting. Okay. All right. Next on the agenda, we have open forum, board member professional growth and development report. Do we have any activities to report tonight?
I was going to share, this past week I was able to be a part of the Wausau School Foundation board meeting, which is just, I'm just sharing really for those watching. It's a fantastic foundation that really supports the district and student needs. And I just it was a very cool opportunity where we got to fulfill a request for a Reach for the Stars grant that a teacher from G.D. Jones had put in for just kind of an above and beyond community, a project for the students going out into the community. And so I just wanted to kind of give a shout out to parents or community members that maybe want to encourage or support their teachers in a different way to consider a financial donation to the Wausau School Foundation with just earmarking that for Reach for the Stars grants. It just gives teachers an opportunity to apply for that extra funding, and it's just a really great way that we can support our teachers, staff, and students. So,
thank you. Any others?
I would like to report what happened at the Wisconsin Association of School Boards meeting this past weekend. This was the quarterly meeting of the 15 regions and the directors of each region meeting at that specific meeting. It was stated by John Ashley, the administrator of WASP, that the mitigation for the regional meetings will be expected to be followed in this fashion. If I remember correctly, it's going to be, first of all, everybody must be masked at the meeting and at the dinner. Everyone will have to bring forward a verification of vaccination or within 3 days of not having COVID by having a COVID test. This was basically discussed for a long period of time. The rationale from John Ashley as the administrator was simply that in 4 weeks, 15 meetings will be taking place, and in those 15 meetings, representation from as many as 34 to 36 districts, people normally going to the regional meeting, would be at these meetings. And it is basically the WASP's point of view that they need to be protected so that they're not, as in their understanding, not spreading, nor are they picking up anything within the regions around the state of Wisconsin. Now remember, again, there are a lot of people involved. There are some districts, there are some areas of the state of Wisconsin, as John Ashley pointed out, that large groups are not allowed to be able to even get together yet. And it is something that they had to take in consideration because the region directors want to have a region-directed meeting, because we had one last year, but it was virtual. And when it was virtual, we had 35 attendees from Region 5. Normally, Region 5, this is the 29 corridor, normally has as many as 250 people that attend the regional meeting. So in their thought process, the administration at WASP, in order to get as many people involved as possible, this is what they put forward for mitigation. They will follow up, and I'm just reporting what was talked about and what was stated at that meeting. They will follow up from John Ashley's office to all of you in a letter, email, identifying what I just told you. But I wanted to give you a heads up so that you're aware of that. Our meeting takes place in October. It's October 13th. That is a Wednesday. And I think some of you have already looked at the possibility of being there. Okay. This may cause some of you to change your mind, or either way, change your mind. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Thank you.
Cassie, you can put me down as the one.
Okay. All right. If nothing else, we'll move on to our next item, which is our legislative liaison report. Ms. Lowell will deliver legislative liaison update.
Thank you, Mr. President. So a lot of vaccine mandate news. Last week, President Biden announced that he will be asking OSHA to mandate that all companies with more than 100 workers require vaccination or a weekly testing. He continues to say we can and we will turn the tide on COVID-19. That was the last week, and I imagine that would affect us as an employer. Also including his action plan is 6-pronged, the comprehensive national strategy. The first prong of his plan is to vaccinate the unvaccinated, further protecting the vaccinated, keeping schools safely open, increasing testing and requiring masking, protecting our economic recovery, and improving care for those with COVID-19. And you can find more on whitehouse.gov. DPI did release a statement on September 1st titled Mask Policy Considerations for Students with IEP. The first thing that they raise is that certain students that are immunocompromised or that have other disabilities may be particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, students with individualized education programs are entitled to receive free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. Students with disabilities are also entitled to reasonable accommodations under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. A universal mask policy may be necessary if that policy allows students with certain disabilities full participation in the educational programming and environment that they would otherwise be denied. The second issue that DPI raises is that the order, the mask order contains exceptions for individuals with disability who cannot safely wear a mask and for certain safety reasons on transportation. The transportation order is in effect and enforceable under federal law. Just wanted to reiterate those. And then also,
I have a letter from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, WASB, which Vice President Boucher did give us an update. He writes on September 2nd, John H. Ashley is the Executive Director for WASB. His letter is titled, School Board Leader Calls for Civility, and I'm just going to read this for everyone. Wisconsin Association of School Boards Executive Director John Ashley released the following statement. We've become increasingly alarmed at the recent reports of personal threats of violence and harassment directed at school board members across the state. Civil disagreement and protest are cornerstones of our democracy, but attempts to intimidate school board members and visibly disrupt school board proceedings are not acceptable. Being passionate about the well-being of our children is commendable, and the public is welcome to voice displeasure or disagreement with their school boards. However, threatening to physically harm school board members or their family members, shouting profanities during school board meetings, or attempting to prevent school boards from executing their constitutional governing role crosses the line and should not be tolerated by our communities. On behalf of the nearly 3,000 school board members in Wisconsin, we're calling for school board meetings to be held in a civil, respectful manner, and we are asking for assistance by all civic and organizational leaders to help ensure that their local governments are able to govern. This week, the new school year began in most Wisconsin school districts. Our children are watching how the adults in their communities deal with conflict and strife. It is up to all of us to set the right example and ensure that our democracy functions as it is intended. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. All right, next we have superintendent commentary.
Thank you. Just briefly, I've heard the President Biden's directive requiring businesses to require vaccinations. Just so the board and the audience who is watching is aware, in our recent legal briefing, school districts are exempt from that directive, and the directive asks governors of each state to make that a requirement. So we would not be required under the current directive. I think that's all I would add tonight.
Okay, thank you. Presiding officer commentary. I will ask that the written board member liaison district activity report be entered into the official record. And just one comment, and actually goes with Mr. Siller's comments on the referendum. The reason, I'm sure everybody knows, or at least saw on the agenda, the reason that we are that we started at 7:30 tonight is the board and administration had an opportunity to start touring some of the facilities within the district. Tonight we went through Lincoln Elementary, John Muir Middle School, and also Wausau West. And the purpose of that was to provide a kind of a first-hand perspective on the needs that exist within the district. And those needs are great. They range anywhere from safety to educational opportunities, to comfort, to just security, in terms of entrances. And it really was, speaking for myself, it was a very eye-opening experience. I've gone through all three of those schools. It's amazing to look back on the things that are still in place today. The theme, I think, that we heard was, well, we make do, or we make it work, and that is something that resonates with me. And frankly, I'm looking forward to the coming weeks and months as we consider a future referendum or not, but really kind of zeroing in on what those real needs and opportunities are, and hopefully we can find a way to get the public to see some of that stuff as well in some form or fashion. But so look for more of that information. All right, and with that, I will seek a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.